Management of diseases is a challenge in pig production. Biosecurity is a cornerstone of herd health maintenance. To begin with, let's first talk about what biosecurity means. What is its significance? What are the various biosecurity measures? Biosecurity is the implementation of measures that reduce the risk of introduction and spread of disease into, within, and out of the pig farm. The main goal of biosecurity is to avoid transmission of disease either between farms or within the farm. Why is biosecurity important? Biosecurity measures keep animals healthy and more productive. As you know, disease adversely affect the sustainability and profitability of a pig farm. Let's hear the story of Mrs. Bobita, who was adversely affected by a disease outbreak in her farm.
नमस्कार, मोर नाम बबिता बैश्य, मोर घर नलबारीत। मोर गाहरी फार्मखन जोৱা বছৰ बहुत रोगत आक्राন্ত হৈছিল। মই তাৰে কাৰণে বহুত গাহৰি বহুত মৰিছিল। এই ৰোগটো বাহিৰৰ পৰা আহিছিল। তাৰে কাৰণে মই বহুত হেৰি হৈছো। এইবাৰ আৰু নতুন কৰি গাহৰি ফাৰ্মখন খুলিব খুজিছো। এই অচিন ৰোগটো কৰ পৰা আহিছে মই নাজানো।
This is an example of why biosecurity measure is important in every pig farm. In this case, the entire stock was affected by African swine fever, which is an emerging highly pathogenic infectious disease of pig. And if robust biosecurity measures were taken in his farm, then the entire stock would have been prevented from the spread and introduction of the disease and the financial implications thereafter.
For having a better idea of the biosecurity measures to be taken on a farm, a thorough understanding of the various routes of entry of a disease needs to be well understood. Pathogen or the disease-causing organism may enter through entry of new animals brought for replacement of old stock or animals brought for breeding purpose or new breeds of animals brought to the farm. Pathogens may also enter the farm through vehicles entering the farm, shoes, clothes, etc. Another possibility could be anthropogenic routes, which means the entry of a pathogen through visitors, animal attendants, or veterinarians who have a recent history of contacting a diseased animal. Contaminated feedstuffs could be another risk factor, as the majority of the farms procure animal feed from outside sources. A disease outbreak in a nearby farm or locality is another risk, because some diseases spread through air or water. Diseases may also enter the farm through animals like rats, stray dogs, cats, cattle, wild boars, migratory birds, and even through ectoparasites. Now we have an idea about the potential risk factors. Biosecurity measures are implemented to reduce risk which predisposes a disease outbreak in your farm. As the saying goes, prevention is better than cure. In this regard, the ICAR-National Research Centre on Pig has developed biosecurity approaches that are practical and appropriate for Indian farm circumstances. The institute located at Rani in the Indian state of Assam is the leading research institute of the country involved in promoting pig husbandry. ICAR-NRC on pig is relentlessly working with the vision to ensure nutritional security, employment generation, and poverty reduction among socially and economically weaker sections by innovative research and extension activities to augment pig production, health, and pork quality.
As you are aware that pig is a species which is supposed to be a mixing vessel for various infectious agents. The pig is a mainstay of the economy of certain areas of the country, especially the northeast region. Since so many years, we have observed a large number of diseases which are affecting whole economy of the pig sector. How to prevent this? As you know, for many diseases there is no vaccines. How to prevent? Biosecurity is the only answer. With the biosecurity, we can prevent various important infections for which we do not have vaccines. Biosecurity is a simple set of measures which they will prevent the infection. Scientists and technical staff of this institution is working to develop different SOPs for the help of our pig farmers. With those SOPs, various pig farmers located in different part of our country are benefited. The SOPs developed by the scientists of this institution actually act as a vaccines for them. So, I request all my pig farmers take care of the biosecurity measures, ensure that they are in place so that the various infections which are affecting the whole economy of the pig sector is prevented.
Scientists from this institute pay regular visits to farmers' households. ICAR-NRC has played a key role in educating all stakeholders about the relevance of biosecurity in pig husbandry as well as on how to implement them. Technical support from the institute has aided pig farmers to tide over the recent pandemic outbreak.
आपका फार्म में आज हमारा आने का उद्देश्य है कि जो आपका पिग में एक बहुत भयानक बीमारी चल रहा है एक डेढ़ साल से, जिसके बारे में आप लोगों को पता है, जिसको अफ्रीकन स्वाइन फीवर कहते हैं। और उससे पहले भी छोटे छोटे बीमारी चलते रहे, लेकिन जितना नुकसान इस बीमारी से हुआ वो एक बहुत ही ज़्यादा है। और पूरा असम प्रदेश और पूरा हमारा उत्तर पूर्व नॉर्थ ईस्ट का तमाम स्टेट्स में इसकी वजह से बहुत सारे गौरी का मृत्यु हुआ है। तो उसमें इस बीमारी का एक सबसे बड़ा मुश्किल काम है कि इसका कोई वैक्सीन टीका अभी तक बना नहीं है। अब जब तक टीका या वैक्सीन नहीं बनेगा तब तक तो इसकी रोकथाम एक बहुत मुश्किल काम है। अब उससे बचने का सिर्फ एक ही उपाय है जिसको हम बोलते हैं बायोसिक्योरिटी। बायोसिक्योरिटी मतलब जो बीमारी का काम करने वाला वायरस है उससे अपने पशु से हम कैसे दूर रख सकते हैं। तो उसके लिए एक बहुत सारी विधि है जो हमने सोचा कि आपके फार्म पे जाकर ही आपको समझाया जाए। यदि अच्छी प्रकार से बायोसिक्योरिटी हम मेंटेन रख पाए तो ये आप निश्चित मान लीजिए कि अफ्रीकन स्वाइन फीवर जैसी बीमारी आपके फार्म के आसपास भी नहीं आ सकती है। और एक बार अफ्रीकन स्वाइन फीवर से अपने आप को आपने बचाया तो जो भी आर्थिक नुकसान जो हुआ है वो आर्थिक नुकसान से आप बचेंगे, और जो मुख्य उद्देश्य इससे कुछ आर्थिक संसाधन पैदा करने का है वो आपका उद्देश्य भी पूरा होगा।
Recommended biosecurity measures. A biosecurity plan begins with the farm's location and layout. A farm should be ideally located at an isolated place to facilitate a reasonable distance between the farms. However, this is not always practically possible. The best possible intervention is to establish physical barriers and restrictions to free movement. A biosecured farm area should be kept as a clean zone. Outside could be classified as a risk zone. By establishing a strong boundary fence around the farm area, free movement of animals like stray dogs, cats, ruminants, wild boars, etc. can be restricted to a great extent. Fencing will also control the movement of people, vehicles and other items into a biosecured pig farm from the risk zones. The farm area may further be divided into a buffer zone and a core zone. The offices, farmhouses and related activities may be located in the buffer zone where monitored entry can be permitted. The pigs should be confined in the core zone where strict biosecurity measures are implemented. Entry process. It is practically impossible to isolate a farm entirely from the outside. The routine operation of the farm requires the movement of personnel, animals and vehicles. Meanwhile, every entry process should abide by the biosecurity protocols. The most practical approach is to have clear instructions on biosecurity starting at the front gate. The display boards should be positioned in such a way to attract the attention of every person coming from outside. A routine thermal screening and hand sanitization are recommended at the main gate itself. Visitors and farm workers are required to provide data pertaining to their movement history before entering the premises. Strict monitoring of their movement history, especially to other pig farms or slaughterhouses, will be crucial before permitting them to enter into the farm. Anyone who has contacted an infected animal or handled a pathogen in the previous 3 days should not be allowed on the farm. Food and biological items from outside should not be allowed inside the farm area. Separate change rooms are recommended where the farm staff can keep their belongings from home during their working hours. Location of this room should be preferably before reaching up to the core biosecurity zone. Farm staff should shower, change their clothes and put on gumboots. Before entering the animal shelters, foot dipping and hand sanitization are mandatory. The majority of vehicles and visitors should be limited to the office or farmhouse areas. Vehicles requiring their delivery up to the farm area may be allowed to proceed only after performing the required sanitization procedures. The procedures include mandatory tire dipping, pressure wash, disinfection, etc. If the vehicle was recently used to transport other animals, thorough disinfection of animal cages is mandatory. Visitors may only be allowed into the core biosecurity zones on organized farms if it is absolutely necessary. In those instances, strict adherence to biosecurity procedures is very important. Wearing aprons, masks, caps and gumboots are recommended. Disinfection methods like foot bath and hand sanitization etc. are mandatory. It is advisable to avoid physical contact with pig during such visits. For small farmers practicing backyard pig husbandry, family guests may tend to enter the pig sheds. In a traditional rural society, this is very common. If any animal at the visitor's household is already infected, allowing them to contact your livestock is a biosecurity risk. Similarly, infections from your farm may also spread outside through the visitor. It is always advisable to entertain the family guests at home and restrict them from entering the pig shelters. Special attention should be taken when the animals are being brought in from other farms. All purchases should be made from a reliable source, healthy herd, and if possible after proper vaccination. Farmers should be aware that an incoming animal, even if asymptomatic, can still harbor a pathogen during the incubation period of a disease. These animals may act as a source of infection to our farm animals. Quarantine involves keeping the new animals at a transitory shelter under veterinary supervision. It is the most effective method to minimize the risk of disease from the incoming animals. Proper cleaning and disinfection of quarantine sheds are important before bringing new batches of animals. Stocks in quarantine shed should follow all-in, all-out strategy, where the new animals are brought in together and moved out together. Ideally, a quarantine shed should be located at least 1,000 meters away from the core biosecurity zone or main farm unit, with separate clothes and equipment for the staff. In ordinary cases, the recommended quarantine period is 21 days. Vaccination against endemic diseases, deworming, disease testing, etc. can be performed during the period. An alternative to purchasing the replacement stock is to produce the next generation from the farm itself by following a closed herd policy. Artificial insemination is the easiest way to bring in a better herd. However, it must be ensured that the source of semen is disease-free. ICAR-NRConpig is involved in supplying quality-assured semen of superior germplasm for artificial insemination. The institute has devoted a lot of emphasis on the research and development related to the artificial insemination of pigs. The disease may also spread through feed and water. Swill feeding, wherein byproducts or animal slaughter wastes are fed to warm animals, is another risk factor if precautions are not taken. Cooking is an effective intervention as heat treatment reduces the microbial load in the feedstuff. Any lapse in feed quality will have an adverse impact on animal health. Health monitoring.
Whenever a disease outbreak takes place, the most important area will be early detection. There are several advantages of early detection. If we can detect early, at least the losses due to mortality can be minimized. So, how early detection can be done? One sign they will notice whenever a disease occurs, definitely the animal will refuse to eat. Second, in some of the infectious diseases, what we will observe, there will be mortality. So, in such cases, what the best option will be, the farmer should immediately inform to the local veterinarian so that he can inform to the concerned authority, so this can immediately be tackled.
Early detection of a disease is the key to minimize an outbreak on a farm. Farm animals may routinely be monitored for any symptoms of disease. Symptoms like fever, reduced appetite, diarrhea, vomiting, reduction in body condition or wasting of body, laminitis, discolorations on skin, abortions, sudden death, etc. need to be immediately reported to the farm manager or veterinarian. For early detection of diseases, farmers and farm staff should be familiar with the symptoms of the disease. Farm staff should receive regular training to enable early detection and reporting of diseases in pigs. Biological samples of suspected animals may be collected as per the veterinary advice and sent for laboratory diagnosis. Quick and accurate disease detection is the key to control any disease outbreak. In case of mortality, post-mortem examination will help in identifying the etiology. Suspected biological samples may be sent to authorized laboratories for disease detection. The Animal Health Laboratory at the ICAR-NRC-on-Pig has a cutting-edge diagnostic facility. Testing for most of the endemic swine diseases is routinely performed here. After testing, the samples are biosecurely disposed of to stop pathogen flow outside the diagnostic facility. Biosecurity measures during disease contingencies. The farm veterinarian should be alerted immediately when symptoms of a disease are observed to initiate treatment as soon as possible. Additionally, monitoring animals in close contact with the affected animal for any developing symptoms is equally important. A standard operating plan for disease contingencies need to be initiated, which include isolation of infected animal, cleaning the shed, disinfecting shed, utensils and premises. Isolation of the infected animals helps to contain the disease and limit its spread across the population. An isolation shed must be physically separate from any buildings used for other livestock. While constructing an isolation shed, design it in such a way that the discharges, effluents and manure are retained there or disposed of so that they do not come into contact with other healthy animals. Disinfectant foot baths must be provided at the entrance of isolation shed. Restrict entry of visitors to this area. Dedicated utensils and clothing for isolation shed is recommended, otherwise disinfect them after use. Dedicated attendants are recommended, otherwise healthy animals should be attended first. All types of wastages including feeding stuffs, fodder, bedding, etc. must be disposed of separately. In an isolation shed, infected animals are kept for a minimum of 21 days. Cleaning and disinfection. An unhygienic premise predisposes the incidence of disease in a herd. Hence, routine cleaning and disinfection are the significant biosecurity measures in every farm. Cleaning involves the removal of all organic waste matter like bedding materials, excreta, residual feed and fodder, etc. from sheds. Emphasis on adopting proper disposal methods to minimize environmental pollution and concerns of those residing in the neighborhood are equally important. Untreated effluents may pose serious health hazard to both human and animals. In larger farms and slaughterhouses, the establishment of effluent treatment plants is an effective intervention. Effluents are initially subjected to physical agitation for sedimentation of solids before flocculation by chemical treatment. This is followed by biological treatment in aerobic and anaerobic conditions. Finally, water will be released after filtration as clear water. Okay, let us discuss more on the cleaning operations. In addition to normal shed cleaning, a detergent wash is also recommended periodically. Detergent washes are mandatory before introducing new batches of animals to the shed. Similarly, intensive cleaning and disinfection should be done after the incidence of a disease or after disposal of the carcass. All traces of the cleaning agent must be rinsed away with clear water before the disinfectant is applied, because the residues may inactivate the disinfectant. The choice and strength of the disinfectant depends on the surfaces to be cleaned, type of pathogen, etc. Bleaching powder or calcium hypochlorite with 30% available chlorine can be used for dusting floors, gutters and passages. Mats or empty gunny bags soaked in bleaching powder or lime powder can be laid across the roads and passages outside the farm. Lime or calcium hydroxide solution can be prepared by dissolving half kg lime per 5 liters of water. It may be applied by sprinkling on surfaces. The dusting of lime powder alone is recommended on floors, drains or gutters. 2% sodium hypochlorite can be used in the passages inside the shed at entry and exit points also. Potassium permanganate in 3:1000 dilution can be used in foot dips, tire dips and equipment wash. 1% formaldehyde is another solution that can be used for foot and tire dips. Commercially available disinfectant preparations containing potassium peroxy monosulfate like pyroxide can be used inside the animal sheds routinely. 2 to 5% solution of phenol in water can also be used for splashing on metallic objects and premises. It is effective for vehicle and cage disinfection. Carcass disposal. Disposal of the carcass should be done scientifically to contain the pathogen. The method of disposal should preclude contamination of soil, air and water. If deep burial method is adopted, the pit of sufficient depth should be thickly layered with lime before the carcass is buried. Hides and other parts of animals that have succumbed to infectious diseases or toxins should also be safely disposed of. Incineration is another preferred method. Incineration is the burning of animal carcasses at high temperatures to inorganic ash. The carcass, along with the contaminated materials, can be incinerated to neutralize the pathogenic agent. Vaccination. Vaccination stimulates an immune response to protect the pigs against infections. Every farm should adopt and strictly follow a standard vaccination protocol. Vaccinate before the expiry date while ensuring cold chain maintenance of the vaccine. For better results, deworm the pigs before vaccination. Ensuring booster vaccination is equally important. In India, vaccination should be carried against classical swine fever, foot and mouth disease and porcine circovirus. Vaccination against classical swine fever should be done after weaning with a booster dose after a month and subsequent revaccinations every 6 months. FMD vaccination should begin when the piglet is 3 weeks old with a booster dose after a month and revaccinations every 6 months. Similarly, vaccinations against the circovirus can be done at 3 weeks age followed by revaccinations every 6 months. As mentioned earlier, newly purchased animals may be vaccinated during the quarantine period itself.
Hello Nitin.
Hi sir, good morning sir.
Good morning. Recently I heard you visited a farm of Babul.
Yes sir.
Where a lot of animals died.
Yes sir.
How that really happened?
Sir, Pablo was a farmer. He had almost 45 animals, but no biosecurity measures were taken. Visitors used to visit frequently. There was an outbreak there and a lot of animals died because of that. Sir, we also heard that you visited a wonderful farm of Tinku last week.
Yeah,
How was it?
Tinku's farm, it is a really beautiful farm. He could really save animals in spite of this ASF wave happening. He could save animals only because of strict biosecurity measures he took for his farm.
Okay, sir.
He took biosecurity measures such as disinfection, regular disinfection of farms. He never visited other farms, or he never allowed visitors. All those protocols he was very strictly following.
Okay.
That actually saved his animals.
From the entire discussion, you would have realized why the implementation of biosecurity is critical to the prevention of diseases. Here is a progressive pig farmer, Mr. Pawan Das. Let us hear from him on how biosecurity measures helped him after the recent disease outbreak.
Namaskar, মোৰ নাম শ্ৰী পৱন দাস। মই নলবাৰী জিলাৰ ধমধমা অঞ্চলৰ এজন পিগ ফাৰ্মাৰ। আৰু এই ফাৰ্মখনৰ দ্বাৰা মই বিভিন্ন ক্ষেত্ৰত উপকৃত হ'ব পাৰিছোঁ। 2021 চনৰ 15 ফেব্ৰুৱাৰী তাৰিখে মই এটি বিশেষ কাৰণত মোৰ গোটেই ফাৰ্মখন ধ্বংস হৈ গ'ল। এই ফাৰ্মখন যেতিয়া নেকি ধ্বংস হৈছিলে তেতিয়া মই ৰাষ্ট্ৰীয় গাহৰি গৱেষণা কেন্দ্ৰৰ বৈজ্ঞানিকসকলক লগত আলোচনা কৰি মোৰ ফাৰ্মখন কেনে ধৰণে উপকৃত হ'ব পাৰে সেই ক্ষেত্ৰত তেখেতসকলৰ পৰা দিহা পৰামৰ্শ লৈছিলোঁ। আৰু তেতিয়া তেখেতসকলে মোক কৈছিলে যে এই ফাৰ্মখনৰ ক্ষেত্ৰত আপুনি বায়োচিকিউৰিটি মেইনটেইন কৰিব লাগিব, কাৰণ সেই ফাৰ্মখনত মোৰ ওচৰৰে এজন মানুহে এটি ফিমেল গাহৰি লৈ আহিছিলে। চাগে সেই ফিমেল গাহৰিটোৰ যোগেৰে এই ফাৰ্মখনত বেমাৰ চাগে বিয়পিব পাৰে। ৰাষ্ট্ৰীয় গাহৰি গৱেষণা কেন্দ্ৰৰ বৈজ্ঞানিকসকলে আহি মোক যিবোৰ সুপৰামৰ্শ দিছে, আকৌ পুনৰ ফাৰ্মখন গঢ়িবলৈ তেখেতসকলে মোক উৎসাহ যোগায়। বৈজ্ঞানিকসকলৰ যোগেদি মই পুনৰ ফাৰ্মখন আকৌ উপকৃত হ'ব পাৰিছোঁ বুলি ভাবোঁ।
Whether it is a big or small farm, biosecurity is important. For small backyard farmers, adoption of the following simple biosecurity measures will serve the purpose to a great extent. Establish a strong fence around the farm to restrict free movement. Restrict visitors' entry into farm area. Entertain them at home. Clean sheds routinely and maintain hygiene. Maintain a disinfectant foot bath before entering the farm. Keep an eye on the quality of feed. Cook swill before feeding. Vaccinate and deworm on time. Follow quarantine protocol for new animals and isolate infected ones. Properly dispose of dead animals. Be aware of the disease symptoms and seek veterinary care immediately upon observation of symptoms. Biosecurity is a never-ending procedure. The success of biosecurity relies on recognizing flaws in existing systems and making constant efforts to improve them to reduce risks. The ICAR-National Research Centre on Pig is committed in its efforts to support the pig farmers whenever required. Together with the farmers, we strive for a better future.